Coming up next on Walking with Dad.
We need that relationship with a father. Every man needs some type of a father or somebody to look up to. And because some of us have never had that on earth, I want us to realize you always have one in heaven. Even if you read the scripture, Jesus gives you the blueprint of what it is to be a great dad. The loving, the sacrifice, the commitment, everything he talks about. So, about being a father.
And hello and welcome to yet another great episode here at Walking with Dad, here where we give dads and fathers the opportunity to have a voice, giving their perspective on the significance of being present within their kids' lives and within the family's life, where we celebrate Father's Day every single day and where we are bringing the family back together one step at a time. This week's guest I have in place and have the pleasure of speaking with today it's a funny situation of how networking works nowadays, especially with social media. But even in this particular instance, that I've gotten a chance to meet and get to know a little bit more about this individual through an in-person networking event through a shared person that the both of us know. He's actually in the area doing some great and big things, but he's actually responsible for having linked myself and today's guest initially. We've been able to keep in touch and speak about various things over just the past couple of months. And because of that, and from that, we've been able to share some things as well, maybe even linking up in the future on some things. But today's guest, he's actually a military kid. He'll be able to tell you a little bit more about that. He's also a non-profit founder of an organization that he started. And of course, with Walking with Dad, he definitely takes pride and enjoys being a father. So on today, if you could welcome with me as I present to some and actually introduce to majority, his name is Roland Harris. Roland, how you doing today, man?
Hey, I'm doing great. About yourself?
Man, I cannot complain, man, for sure, man. I definitely appreciate you being here with us here at Walking with Dad today, man.
Hey, thank you for having me out, man. I've really been looking forward to this opportunity, Nathan. So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. So let me ask you, man, getting started, man. How are you doing today? How have things been going for you lately?
Oh, the day has been going good, man. Just not waking up just too long ago, walked the dog, told my baby good morning. Looking forward to a great day. Gonna do a little light gym work, a little shopping, that's all.
That's cool, man. That's cool. All right, man. So if you could just let Walking with Dad get to know you just a little bit about you, like, where are you from, what it is that you do nowadays, what interests that you have within anything that you're doing.
All right. Well, again, my name is Roland Harris. I'm a father to a little princess named Joyelle Harris. She'll be 10 years old come Juneteenth. Currently, I work at Verizon as a consultant, and I'm also the founder of a nonprofit organization called I Am My Brother's Keeper Incorporated, where we're an advocate for men's mental health. And being mentally sound is one of the things that's most important when it comes to being a father. Because if you're not there mentally for your kid, who's going to be there for them?
Wow, man. So, what actually drove you to want to start that nonprofit that you have in place?
Well, one of the things that was most important to me was being there for my daughter.
Okay.
I was somebody who thought I was just a mentally sound human being. Nothing could bother me. And then when the straw broke the camel's back, I wanted to make sure that there was some type of a foundation that I had for me in order to be there for my daughter. I didn't want my fall to affect her any. So that's one
Okay.
of the biggest things.
Okay, cool, man. And you've mentioned your daughter, so you have just one child?
Yeah, just one child, man, just one princess. I can't imagine having more than one.
It's all good. I totally understand it, man. All right, cool, man. Well, I definitely appreciate that. And from what you shared with me too, you have a military upbringing. Can you fill us in just a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, man. My father served in the Air Force for 25 years. He was the greatest example of a father as he could be. There were so many things that I didn't realize that came with being a father because he made it look so easy.
Mm.
The balance between him working and doing what he had to do and coming home and being a dad, and he did that perfectly. So much so I didn't realize how much that some of my friends who didn't have fathers in their lives, I didn't understand how much they were impacted by it just because I was so used to having my dad around.
Wow. Wow. So, with having your father present in your life and then also with that military backing, like, can you fill us in just a little bit more on your upbringing? Obviously he was a great impact for you, but what are some characteristics of what, he instilled within your life because of his presence?
That you're never too busy to be a dad. There'll be times that my dad would come home from a deployment and they'd be maybe 5 or 6 in the morning. And it wasn't until I got older that I realized, he was going from plane to get there. But as soon as he would get home, it was my mom first and then the kids. We would wake up that morning, he would fix his breakfast, he would take us to school. When we go back home, after they get deployed, they get a couple of days off, and he wouldn't spend it, away, trying to go ahead and get himself back in the mode. But he would spend it with us, whether it be helping us with homework. He was the type of dad who played catch in the yard or, have me mowing grass. So he was a perfect example of a work-life balance. Now, I still don't know how he did it because my balance is not like his, but he was just a great man.
That's cool, man. That's cool. What are like a few of those things from your childhood with, actually having your dad present and being there that you can say that you've been able to learn and then also pass on to teaching to your daughter?
Patience. My father was even though he was in the military, he wasn't like a real strict dad. Things weren't always, it had to be his way or the highway. He always spoke to us, he may have gotten a point of view and may not go the way we wanted it to go, but he would at least allow us to voice how we felt or voice our opinions. Um, Always gave us a fair shot. I can never remember my dad lying to me. I can always remember even when we were disciplined, it was a conversation about why we were being disciplined. So it was always great communication. And that's what I try to do to my daughter all the time. I tell her that she may tell me something I may not like. And so I may get upset at that. I'm like, but give me some time. I'll relax and we'll be able to talk about it. But I want her to be open about communicating me with anything it could be, even if she knows that I'm going to be upset and going to be mad at her. I want her to always feel that she can come to dad with anything.
That's lovely, man. We'll touch back on that because that's powerful. With when you were younger, and from that upbringing, you had touched on mom's present. Were your mother and father married, or how was that relationship?
Yeah, man, my mom and dad, they were married. It would be 50 years this year. My dad was still living.
Okay.
So I had a great example of what that dynamic was to have a mother and father in the household. My mom did a lot for my dad, especially with him being deployed. She was that sense of structure that we always had in the home. She held down the fort great when he was
Okay. Okay.
so much so that even though he was deployed a lot, being younger, I really didn't even realize how much he was gone because of the great structure that they had at the house.
Nice, nice. So, how was your relationship with, or mom is still alive, I would
Yeah,
assume?
yes,
Okay.
so, yeah.
So, how was and even is your relationship with your mother?
It's fantastic, man. Well, I wish I would say we spoke every day. We speak every other day.
Okay.
She is a British woman, a strong-willed British woman. So it's awesome. It's awesome. I'm a mama's boy. So
And then also on the flip side, even with having your father passed away for however long that it has been now, and his impact being there and present, how was your relationship with your father? Obviously, you said that he was the greatest example that you probably could have had, but how was your actual relationship with him?
it was great, man. Me and my dad, especially in the latter parts of life. Early on, I didn't understand how similar me and him were, so we bumped heads. I'm great in math. He was great in math. Sports fans just being generally jovial and goofy. I never thought I would be goofy like my dad, but I'm goofy just like him. So we had an awesome relationship. And then as he started walking in his calling and he got older, and I found I had a calling in my life, they gave us something else to bond on. As a matter of fact, we talked all but one day the week that he passed away. So
Wow.
that was a great relationship.
Wow, that's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool. So taking that communication with your dad and then relaying that to you being a dad and communicating with your daughter, why would you say that there is such importance with how you had mentioned, being able to speak with your daughter? She might share some things that you might not necessarily be in agreement with. Why would you say that having that line of communication with your daughter is so important?
To be truthful, the reason why it is so important to me to have that communication with my daughter, because as a child I was molested. And what I did is I never told anybody. I
Mm,
kept it inside. And as I got older and I got an adult and I began to go through therapy, I understood how not telling anybody how it affected me mentally and socially coming up. And I never wanted my daughter to be in a place where she felt that she couldn't speak to somebody.
mm,
One of the people who molested me, which was my aunt, she would tell me that, if I told my parents that, my parents can get in trouble, or, my parents would look at me differently. And so it was that guilt and shame that I held in of not wanting to get them in trouble, that I never want my daughter to go through that. I never want somebody to deceive her into thinking she can't tell me anything. And so that's why I stressed to her that you can, even if I don't like what you've told me, your dad is still human. Give me time to ingest everything so I can think about it, and then we'll talk later. But to always be, never be afraid to tell me.
How long would you say that it was for you? And I definitely want to take the time to just thank you for that, informing us of that, because you didn't have to. So I appreciate that, man. Um, how long did it take for you in your life to basically come to that point of what your aunt was telling you was a lie, that that your parents would get in trouble for what was taking place?
Honestly, man, not soon enough. She stopped. I was molested by her from 4 to 10.
Wow.
And the only reason it stopped is because we stopped going over there to visit that side of the family because we were about to move because we are stationed overseas in Germany. They're in England. So each summer I would just go visit them. And it got to the point where my dad was not the his deployment in Germany was about to end. And so for those last couple of years we didn't go over there. And so it wasn't until honestly I was older
Mm.
that I realized that there was a lie and that I could have told people. I wish I would have known that when I was younger and as a kid, but it was until I was like 18, 19 years old and living my own life that I realized that, I've been sown a lot.
And did you ever reveal that to your parents at all?
I did.
Okay.
In order to start my nonprofit, I knew that there were some things that I couldn't tell a man to go back and confront his hurt in the past if I didn't do so myself.
Mm.
So not only did I tell my parents, I even reached out to my aunt. And I let her know I was in my 30s. I had to been, I'd say 30 to 35. I reached out to her, wrote her a letter on Facebook and was like, look, I'm writing you this letter because I know what you did. I'm a man. I can talk about it now. The pain that you put me through physically, mentally, emotionally, the wounds, the scars, they're all real. And I want to let you know that I forgive you for them. Being an adult, I understand that you had to go through something as a kid in order to do that to me as a kid. And I just want to let you know that, I forgive you and I love you. And I hope that you found the help that you needed. And I hope this will help you as well, going throughout your life and knowing that, I forgive you.
Man, that is powerful, man. With you having your nonprofit now and it being to the extent of the importance of mental health, and you've mentioned with men, but even just altogether, why is there such importance with expressing that forgiveness to that extent of just all together, but especially in such instances of molestation of what you have mentioned and experienced.
Because when you're molested as a child and then you turn around, you're having children, I found myself being so hyper vigilant. I'm out someplace, I'm looking at my daughter, I'm looking at other men, making sure they don't have an eye on my daughter. When we're around family, I'm always looking around, watching to see who she's interacting with, how they're interacting, and I didn't want to be trapped in that prison. You can be so watching out for somebody and waiting for the sky to fall that you miss out on life.
Mhm.
You're always worried about what's going to happen in the next move that, things pass you by. And so I believe that meant it was important for me to be mentally sound, to be the best father I can be and to enjoy life, not
Mm.
be trapped in a prison.
Wow, man. Yeah. That is probably got to be one of the topics of conversation nowadays that does not get spoken of enough. And then of course with the fact of like mental health and counseling and therapy being something that people are a lot more comfortable with speaking of, that it's just not spoken of enough, while at the same time behind closed doors that's just as much if not even more of it that's occurring. So yeah, man, definitely thank you for sharing that, man. So okay, you kind of caught me somewhere, man, but it's all good. One thing that you had mentioned that you caught from your dad and that you also share is the calling. So, what would you say is your calling of what you've been pursuing in your life?
Yes, well, I definitely have a calling on me to spread the ministry of Jesus Christ. And I think that is as well one of the most important things that I'm instilling in my daughter as well. Just that faith and how much God has done in our lives. I tell her all the time that, you know, I wouldn't be her dad without the love of Jesus. I know it's through the love of God that I've gotten this far because there were times because of that brokenness of the molestation that I didn't love myself, that I thought things were wrong with me, that I thought that I went through those things because, my mother and father may have loved me, but they were still underneath their watch. And it wasn't their fault, of course, but as a kid, it's like, underneath their watch, I got hurt.
Mm.
And so I had to find a place to heal. For somebody to take some of that pain away because I wasn't telling anybody. So my relationship and my faith with God has been everything for me. And my father, although we weren't really big on going to church when I was younger, he always let me know who Jesus was.
Mm.
So that's what I do with my daughter.
That's a strong topic because, and I'll ask instead of assuming. Now with your personal understanding, you said that dad and maybe even your family wasn't maybe as consistent maybe with going to church or going into a building. And so now with you and your understanding, do you also follow that same I don't know, practice, or would you say that you are maybe like a regular weekly attendee of going into a church and building and feeling and figuring that that's significant for you, or that's the way that you have to go, or is it just more so of a choice for you?
It's more than sort of a choice. I believe it's hard to have a relationship with somebody if you don't go to their house. You can't call somebody a true friend if you never, walked across your threshold. And you can't call somebody your best friend if you don't go there and you don't visit often. And you sure can't call somebody your father if you don't visit their house often. So I truly believe in going into a place of worship so I can get that time with God.
Okay, man. And I know from a couple of conversations that we had thus far, you've mentioned with your place within ministry that you may very well be taking a next leap within your faith as far as maybe beginning and starting a ministry of your own.
Yes, to God be the glory. My bishop said that him and God have had a talk, and he understands the calling in my life. So he wants to cultivate me in order to be able to trust me with a church of my own. And so, prayerfully, whenever it happens, it will. But right now, I'm just focused on serving, and everything else will come when it comes. But I literally pray with my daughter each night that the following day that we're able to touch somebody's life and water a seed or plant a seed to show them how, what it is to be a follower of Christ. And I try to do that every day. I make sure that there's one person that I pray for. So I'm that person who's walking in Walmart, speaking to people. And if I can tell something's on somebody, I'll ask them, what's going on. And if they tell me that there's an issue, then I'll just stop and I'll pray for them. But I just truly believe that it's my belief. That's my walk in Christ.
Nice, nice, man. From what it sounds like, it's not necessarily so much of a title or a position of some sort that you are maybe seeking in order to get started or to fulfill what it is that you're doing, but you already see it as like a responsibility that, it's not a title per se that you want to have, but it's more so of a responsibility that you want to fulfill. That's what it sounds like. Am I correct with that?
It is. When I say it's a calling on my life, that's what I was purposed to do. And it's just not people in general. Although, I believe all people should have their relationship with God. It's men. I've been called for men because for so long, man, we've been told that we really don't need anybody. We need ourselves no matter what happens. Just keep pushing through it. But we can't do it by ourselves. So we need that relationship with a father. Every
Mm.
man needs some type of a father or somebody to look up to. And because some of us have never had that on earth, I want us to realize you always have one in heaven. Even if you read the scripture, Jesus gives you the blueprint of what it is to be a great dad, the
Mm.
loving, the sacrifice, the commitment, everything he talks about. So about being a father.
Mm.
So that's
Man.
my big thing.
Yeah, man. So you have basically the calling, and I don't know. I sense a ministry already from that, as well as the nonprofit. Do you see those two already basically coinciding with each other, or do you kind of keep them separate, or what?
I thought I would be able to keep them separate, but they're one and the same.
Mm.
They're actually they're one and the same. Once I start talking to somebody mentally about getting them healed that way, the next thing is to see what they're doing spiritually. And I don't care if somebody is a Buddhist. There's a guy who lives next door to me. He's an Israelite. I don't care what your personal belief is or what your faith walk is. I just want to make sure that you're healed and happy. And in those conversations, we'll eventually, after they're healed, we'll talk about the Bible. And I always ask them, I was like, whatever your belief is, if you can tell me one thing in the red that what Jesus said was wrong, then we can have a topic. But if you can't tell me if anything he said was wrong, then what's wrong with the Bible?
Without going too deep and becoming extremely controversial, I know that that's another topic of conversation nowadays of so many religions that have come to the forefront and a lot of questions about when you go deeper as far as God, but then also Jesus, that it can become that much more controversial. And you don't like to necessarily create tension
Mm.
because to act and to walk like Jesus did and like he does, it's not a force on anybody of any sort. And I don't know, when we all can understand and realize that it's like it's said that it's the world is a better place, so to say. Yeah, man. So um from you talking, you mentioned you and your daughter, today, present day. Um, how is your relationship with the mother of your child?
It is much better than it was. It
Mm.
was much better than it was when everything first happened between me and my ex-wife. It was a whirlwind. I can never honestly say exactly what was going through her mind, but I know there was a point in time where she decided where she no longer wanted to be married to me, and that she thought it'd be best if we broke up. From what I could, from the outside in, a happy home. There wasn't any arguments or any infidelity on my part, and I can't. She's always said that there wasn't any infidelity on her part as well. So I
Mm.
can never point a finger at, this was an instance, or this wasn't. She let me know that I was a good father, a good husband, but we needed to be in separate households. In that time, she fell on hard times, and it was said that my daughter should remain with me throughout the school year, and that during the summertime, that her mother and I, my ex-wife and I, would share time with my daughter during the summertime. There's a certain amount of time where she didn't have the time that I believe she should have with Joya. It's my daughter. There was some moments where Joya really missed her mom, and that pandemic was a blessing. It was a blessing for our family because it forced the relationship to come back together. I was working from home, and all the schools were closed down, so the children had to be home taught. And her mom at the time her working situation was more flexible than mine, and so she was able to watch Joya during the day as I worked. And then when I got off of work, Joya would be brought over here. And it was just, I could not, my baby was missing her mom to a point where she would tell me about it before then. And then once the pandemic started and stuff started getting back to normal, I just had to let her know, like, look, we can't go back to where it was, where you weren't spending what we believe was adequate time with her. We need to figure out a schedule where you spend more time, because I can love her and show her how it is to be loved by a man, but I can't teach her what it is to be a woman. So now we're on a great schedule. I get my baby twice a week, and she'll get her, not twice a week, 2 weeks at a time, and then she'll get her 2 weeks at a time. So now it's 50-50 down the middle. And it is
Wow.
absolutely great. We talk, man. Communication is awesome. We have a great co-parenting model. Took
Mm.
time to get there, but it's here.
Nice, man. I was just thinking, I think it was like maybe just yesterday of the power of the statement, or maybe even cliche, so to say, of it's just a matter of time, or it's only a matter of time. And that's what it sounds like for your situation, that once upon a time, what wasn't that great, over time, and especially for you to be able to mention that the pandemic was a blessing, which is you're probably a few and far between instance of individuals out here who can mention that, because not everybody has that same experience, that you actually said that it was a blessing. So I am very much so glad to hear that that was a blessing for you, and it still is, from what it sounds like. How long were you married before the divorce became a decision of what you all went about?
4 years. We were
Okay.
married 4 years before the divorce came. We're just about to, as a matter of fact, yeah. Oh, it would have been 5 years because we got separated. We decided to separate in May, and our anniversary was in June. So we
Wow.
were just about to hit 5 years when we separated, and then 2 years later we got the divorce.
Wow. Wow. So I've got to ask this question only because of that. Nowadays, would you say that a lot of the focus has anything to do with wanting to get and stay married, or simply just having a child or having children?
I think a lot of people these days have marriage confused. So it ends up to a point where people are just having children out of wedlock, or because people don't realize how marriage is supposed to work.
Mhm.
Think that before the generations that came before us, they understood how tough life was. Marriage wasn't a fairy tale. Marriage was about two people coming together and tackling life together, and understanding that, hey, not only are we going to have to go out there and struggle in life, but in order to make two people who come from different households, who think differently, to come into one household and make it happen, you're going to have to work at it. And so I think people end up thinking that it's going to be easy and that raising children are easy. But there's not a manual that comes with being married or raising children. Everybody's going to do it a different way, and nobody's going to be perfect. So I think that there's just a huge misconception that one, that it's been so frequent that people are having children and not be having a two-parent household, that it's almost become normal. And having a two-parent household is a thing that's now an abnormal, which is
Mhm.
totally backwards.
Yeah. Um, I've caught myself lately speaking of the term society.
Right.
The way the society points out uh the marriage or the family or the household is, along the lines of what you just mentioned, that, a single parent household is the norm,
Right.
while, two parents being under the same household, raising a child, raising a family, is like I usually say nowadays a lost art, so to
Amen.
say, man. How useful is it or has it been for you that the mother of your child is also local, um, compared to, like, you being in separate states, and then, you having to, you know, go about that 50-50 time with your child, as you had mentioned, and having to drive a certain distance to, have to meet somewhere, and then, go about those 2 weeks at a time. How useful has it been for you that you don't have to deal with that distance and you can share that time within a closer proximity?
And it is honestly the world because it's been times where, my health, I've ended up having to go to the hospital and things have happened. And her being so close, even, before I drive to the hospital, I was able to give her a call, look, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Hey, I'm not doing well. I need to go to the hospital. I need you to come get Joyelle, and her be there. Or if somebody has something planned for a weekend, it's nothing to drive. We literally live maybe 10, 15 minutes away.
Mm.
So it's nothing for to get in the car and swing by there, drop her off, or pick something up. So it has been the world. As a matter of fact, in my previous relationship, I was almost about to get married, and there was a point of contention with my then fiance because she wanted to move. We were looking at houses in Suffolk and across the water. And I was like, look, the dynamic with my ex-wife is so great with my child. I don't want to move over there because I don't want to ruin this dynamic. That
Mm.
means because I'm the custodial parent, that means that my daughter will be going to school in Suffolk. There's the bridge, there's the water. Mom wouldn't be able to get her 2 weeks out the time because there'd be so much time waiting in traffic that I was looking for houses on this side of the water. And it was kind of contentious for her. She was like, you're not moving on. I'm like, no, I am moving on. But this relationship between her and her mother, regardless of, my ex fiance, she was a wonderful woman, a great role model. But the woman my daughter is always going to look up to is going to be her mother. And because the relationship was so rocky, and we got it on the mend, I didn't want to disrupt that. So it was important for me to make sure that we stayed close to one another.
Yeah. I've mostly heard of such stories. I can only imagine, and I won't even try to put myself in such shoes. So when you say that it's like the worth, I could just literally imagine, man, because of, that closeness is, it's convenient for you as the parent as well as the mother. It's probably even more beneficial for your daughter or any child, for that sake, man. So that's beautiful, man. So if there were to be, or rather, actually, your daughter is, you said she's 10 now, or she's about to be 10?
Yeah, she's gonna be 10 on June 19th.
She's about to be 10. So, I mean, of course, I can imagine she knows how to use, maybe a little bit of social media or electronics nowadays, because kids are so much more advanced nowadays, and especially with their access of things. But say 10 years from now, and she's at that age, 20, obviously, she's finding somebody who is of interest to her, a young man at that time. How high of a bar would you say that you have set or have been setting for her, as far as a man being in the picture, or how a man should be treating your daughter?
I have tried to set that. I've allowed my daughter to understand her work, So when I talk with my daughter. I don't talk at her. Always am reaffirming of her. I never tell her that she's beautiful first. I always tell her how smart that she is, clever that she is. I always uh, try to um, uplift those attributes of hers before I talk about how beautiful she is. And I tell her the difference between being beautiful and being pretty. Like you're a pretty girl, but you're also beautiful from what comes with inside of you. So he is really going to have to respect the person that she is because she's confident who she is. I'm always opening doors for her. She's never had a Valentine's Day where she hasn't gotten flowers and balloons and the stuff that seems to be, ceremonial. She's always had it. So it's not going to be anything new when somebody buys her something like that. We talk about everything. So he's going to have to be a big communicator. I'm always interested in her feelings. So I want her to understand that the man that she's with has to be interested in, what's going on with her. And so that's the bar I'm setting. It's just not, financially she'll always be all right. But I want her to realize, the things that really make the difference in the man that's going to be there to support her. He has to care about her. I don't, like I said, don't yell at her. So that'll be something foreign. If somebody gets to screaming, we always talk about stuff. And I don't put my hands on them because I want anytime if a man puts his hands on her, I want it to feel so foreign to her that she's like, that she knows it's not something that's going to be right. And even when me and her mother were married, she never saw me yell at her mother. She always saw, even if there was an argument and somebody was yelling, she always saw my response was to wait, to be cool, and then to go ahead and answer. So to her, it'll be something like totally different to have a guy yell at her or treat her any other way than that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I don't know, man. I'm even sitting here talking with you, man. And I'm just like, to hear you raise your voice would just be. It seems like that would be out of your character. Because I'm just like, when I hear you talking, I'm just like, I gotta just sit back and just start chilling, man. It's just so chill. And you mentioned that your mother she's originally British. Like, did you have any kind of British upbringing as well?
Yeah, I did, man. My mom, she was born in Barbados, but raised between Barbados and England. And so she was a dual citizen between the two. And just in the last election, she decided to get a U.S. citizenship because she didn't want Trump to be president. So she felt that her vote would matter. So she just got a U.S. citizenship in order to do so. But man, it was crazy. I was the only black kid, or only kid, period. But imagine a black kid in the summertime, you out there playing and you have to stop and go inside for tea. And everybody's like, huh? You're like, yeah, I can't play football outside anymore. I got to go inside for tea real quick for an hour or so. And I used to when I was younger. It was so crazy to me. It's like, man, why am I having to stop? But then I realized as I got older, it was my mom's way of still being able to hold on to us. It was still a way from her getting us out the street, bringing us back inside, having that time as a family, taking that time out of no matter what, that, during the day that we had to come together as a family and have some type of fellowship. So it may have been something small, may have just been some juice and some crackers, but it took us away from the world and brought us inside. We were safe. We got time to spend with her and my dad. If my dad was deployed, just her. And then she let us go out again. But now I understand that as I was getting older, she was just another way of her showing us love and how important family is. You stop time, you stop the world to spend time with your family.
What is the biggest difference of what you can say between holding on to us, like you mentioned, and control?
Oh, yes. The biggest thing when you control somebody, you don't allow them to be their authentic self,
Mhm.
you know. And when you hold on, it's allowing somebody to be their authentic self, but within your presence. So that's what my mom did. She allowed us to be our own individuals. She tried to help mold us, but never change us. So that's what I would say it would be. She held on to us as far as she wanted us to be able to share in each other's love, but she never tried to dictate the people we were.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. That's powerful. I was just gonna say, I listen a lot when I hear people speak, and it always has been intriguing to my ear as far as like, you said Barbados and British, so it's like those are two fairly noticeable enough accents. And I don't know if I can even say so far I can hear it in your voice, but it's like I can hear something, man. So I don't know which one you might even like probably attract to more, but I feel like I can hear something in your voice when you speak. But
Appreciate you. Yeah, man, it's crazy. Like people we'll be outside or in playing, and everybody would come to my house. And my mom would talk, and everybody would just kind of look at me, and I was like, "I tell y'all, man, like back in the day with answering machines, like our answering machine sounded like something out the movies." Like it's crazy to hear my mom talk. It really is. And for her to be black, and we got stationed in Alabama, that was weird because some white people would come up to us and they always thought I talked proper anyway. But then to hear my mom talk, their eyes would be so large. They'd be like, "What?" They'd be like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah."
Yeah, I can only imagine. I can literally only imagine, man. All right, man. So I would say for this to serve as like a audio visual time capsule for your daughter, like I said, 10 years from now, but let's say even say 10, 20, 30 years from now, and your daughter has the opportunity to come back to this episode and be able to experience like, hey, this is my dad right here. And he was, you know, given an opportunity to speak. What would you say is one thing, a few things, something that you would want to be able to leave for your daughter through this opportunity right now?
So always let her know that she's always going to be enough, that there's nobody out there who needs to complete her, that as long as she has God and know that she is with her, that she can do anything. Having a man is important. I'm never going to say you don't. The Lord wants us here to fellowship, and He made Adam and Eve. So He made man and woman. So she should always want to have a man in her life, but understand that, Jesus and God are a bridegroom. So she doesn't need a man in her life. To know that God has given her everything that she needs already inside her. It's just up to her to go through life and find out those things herself. And I can tell her what's inside of her, but it's only when she figures it out herself that she'll understand that she needs nothing else but her and God. I can get that instilled in her, and through God, she has strength, she has confidence, she has the ability to heal, the ability to press on. Literally, no weapon that's formed against her shall prosper. If I can get her to understand that, I'll have done my job as a father.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Where do you think that validation comes from that a lot of our sisters, our daughters, our nieces, our uh women, our females, our queens experience as far as, wanting or needing to be validated? Where do you feel that comes from?
Regrettably, from not having a father or a strong male figure around. As I've gotten to this point in life and gotten into this dating game, you see the various women regrettably had to go from man to man. And you look at them and then you understand there's a little girl or there's a little boy in their life who's also going man to man because the mother is trying to find that right person. So if there's a little girl, you see your mom struggling with different men and finding a relationship, and your mom isn't able to give you the love that or protection that a father has, you're going to want that validation. One, because you never had that father figure, and then two, you see that your mother never had. So then it's the what you didn't get and perceiving what your mother didn't get either. So you're going to be left in your life looking for not only your father, but also not wanting to end up like your mother. That's one of the hardest things for me in dating with a little girl was finding a woman who was healed enough so I could introduce her to my daughter. There's only been my ex fiance was the only woman who I was pursuing that allowed my daughter to meet. Now, I'm a man, so there was a couple of play dates where the kids was playing and we was playing too, so, stuff like that happened. But as far as being intentional, there was only one woman who I was intentional about my daughter meeting because I knew what I wanted her to have.
And why is that so important to protect your daughter from just meeting any and everybody, along the way of, obviously co-parenting father that you are, but obviously, on the dating scene and making yourself available. Why is that so important to protect your daughter from just meeting any and everybody along the way?
I don't want everybody pouring into my daughter. Those people leave an imprint on you, and especially when you're younger. So I didn't want anybody who wasn't the right person imprinting on my daughter. I always wanted her to have some type of a positive role model. And anybody I date, I wanted to be a role model. I want my daughter to feel aspire to be like that type of person, or to look up to them in some type of way, and always feel safe and secure. So it was very important. Some chicks They never met my daughter. They knew about her, but they never had a chance to meet her. That just wasn't. You got to get through me. We got to have a whole bunch of conversations. It's an interview process, and you may have the application of friend or whatever, but he ain't gonna be my baby. He ain't gonna be my baby. No.
All right, man. Well, I'm here walking with Dad, of course, being here as a voice for fathers, even upcoming and aspiring fathers, but just once again for the sake of the family altogether. For our future dads or our young fathers, even single fathers like yourself who might not have as strong of a relationship with their children as they would want to, maybe for whatever reason. What is one or even a couple of key pointers, just some words of wisdom that you would like to leave for our dads and fathers today?
Gonna make a mistake, give yourself some grace. Give yourself some grace. Even if you had the perfect picture, or that your parents were the perfect picture of what it is to be a mother and father, you grew up in a great household, you're not going to do everything that your parents did. You're going to make some mistakes that you didn't even know that they made. So give yourself some grace. And then two, no matter how hard it gets, there's always going to be eyes watching. So make sure you do the right thing. And if you need help, get help, because your kids notice. Your kids know when you're broke. Your kids know when there's something wrong. You can think that you can hide it and you're doing the best job of it, but your kids literally, their job is to watch you. You are their teacher, so they study every move that you make. So if you need help, get the help so you can be the best parent that you can be. Because once you have that kid, it's no longer about you. You're second on the list. It's about that kid.
Cool, man. And is there anything else, just words of wisdom in general, or anything else that comes to you that you would want to leave with us today?
Just keep your faith when it comes down to it, and you're looking for that blueprint and feel like everything that you're doing and everything that you're touching seems to be crumbling. It's a book out there called the Bible that literally has an answer to every single question that you had. And if you need help, you need an interpreter to help you read it. There's many different things online that you can read, but my name is Roland Harris. I'm not hard to find on Facebook. I use my name. I don't have any, what they call aliases or anything of that nature.
Yeah.
So feel more than welcome to reach out to me, but just keep the faith and everything will be all right.
Cool. With that, man, where can anybody who's tuning in find you at on social media, online, even your nonprofit? Where can the people find you at?
Roland Harris. And then my nonprofit is I Am My Brother's Keeper Incorporated. So we have a website online. You can find me there. So that's it. Roland Harris on social media. Then I Am My Brother's Keeper Incorporated. Or on social media and the website as well.
And where at on social media? Like which platforms?
We got all of them locked down. Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter. We got TikTok. Got a YouTube TV coming on, so every single platform we can find me on.
Cool. Well, I'm glad to hear it, man, and definitely hoping that somebody who's in need, any of us out here who's in need, definitely feels free to reach out to you for any of those purposes, being a nonprofit, being for the sake of Bible study, Bible edification, Bible building. And even fatherhood, man, reaches out to you and seeks some assistance from you, man. But once again, for sure, appreciate your time, your insight, and everything that you felt free to share on today, for sure. And walking with Dad, I appreciate you today as well. If you feel that you have gained any sort of value of any sort on today, from hearing Roland Harris share with us what he's shared, please like, subscribe, share with somebody else who is in need of what Roland has shared with us today, and feel free to leave a comment about what you've received on today, anything that stood out to you as well. But at this time, that's all that I have for you for this week. Please tune in next week as I'll see you in the future. Walking with Dad. Thank you.